Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the May 9th, 2023 meeting of Henderson County Fiscal Court. We are glad you're with us. For those watching online, we are also glad you're tuning in today. We'll begin as we always do with an invocation. If you would please join me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, please watch over us as we deliberate for the good of the county and its citizens. Please watch over our first responders, our healthcare professionals, those who work for the county. Especially look over our law enforcement agencies. This week we're commemorating Law Enforcement Memorial Day. Please be with those who are infirmed and sick. Please watch over our uniformed personnel here and abroad. Please lift up Keith Berry's family, who just lost their mother. We say all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Magistrate Southard.
Here.
Magistrate Tompkins.
Here.
Magistrate Putman.
Here.
Magistrate Berry.
Here.
Magistrate Starks.
Here. Gentlemen, you have in your packet the minutes of two meetings, the April 25th meeting of Henderson County Fiscal Court, as well as a special called meeting to work on the budget. After a period of review, I'll entertain a motion to approve both those sets of minutes.
Judge, I move we accept the fiscal court meeting and the special call meeting.
Second.
April.
We have a motion and a second. Any other corrections, clarifications, additions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We have a busy lineup today, and we have several visitors, including a delegation from the Henderson Boys and Girls Club, and I'd ask their representatives to please come forward. We're looking forward to your comments, and joined by Bill Fiddler.
Thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to address fiscal court this morning, and three purposes for our presentation and discussion. Number one is to say thank you for fiscal court and county support of the Boys and Girls Club. I have with me today, in addition to our chair, Mr. Steve Gold, Mr. Bruce Pritchett, who is our vice chair of the Boys and Girls Club of Henderson, and Mr. Steve Winkler, who is the CEO of the Cliff Hagen Club and its affiliates. And I'm a representative of the advisory board and also on the board of trustees, which is the governing body of the Cliff Hagen Club and its associate clubs. And so we want to say thank you. We're in the middle of a multi-year pledge on the part of the county in support of the Boys and Girls Club, and we're deeply appreciative of that support. It means a lot to us. The second reason for our presentation this morning is to give you an update on our move to the Armory from Community Baptist Church. Community Baptist has been a wonderful partner, but we are so excited about our move to the Armory because it will make a difference in the club and its ability to assist the children of Henderson County. Third thing is that Mr. Steve Winkler will address several programs that we are conducting in the Boys and Girls Club now and will be able to enhance after our move to the Armory, which we expect to happen in August of this year, that will address two serious problems that we're facing here in Henderson County, and we think you'll be very interested in those programs. So let me ask Mr. Bruce Pritchett to come forward, and he'll give you an update on the Armory. Thank you.
They're not to throw at you, I promise.
First of all, I'm just going to kind of a quick preview of the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
So you have something in writing?
Thank you, sir.
As you might or might not know, we started the renovation over a year ago. And as you look at the pictures on the front, if you were in there, and as you go through it and look at it, there was some ugly. But that building itself is wonderful. And we hope that building, when we're done, after a $2.4 million renovation, is if we have something like Mayfield, the next day, that building will be lit up, and we're going to be able to feed people. We're going to be able to handle people and help people out. So it's not just a Boys and Girls Club. It's also there for the community. And that's a good thing, because you never know when that can happen in this part of the country. It's just part of it. So that's where we're headed. Where are we now? We have finished the gym. That's part of the gym floor, and it's gorgeous. And it's a wooden gym floor now, too. It's not a tile, which is even better. It's cushioned underneath, like a gym should be. It's also going to be a gym that can be used for entertainment. We have a kitchen that is a first-class kitchen. It's going to be able to cook for a couple hundred people, which is good. All the equipment's there. We're just still going through repairs. And those repairs are happening as we say now. Our goal is by July 1st to have that building available and start our movement from the church into the armory. There's one drawback, is we've been on 8-month delay for our main area units. And we continue. We were told that they're in transit. My question was, give me a tracking number and a trucking company. Steve laughs because him and I talked about it. They said, oh, we don't have that. I said, then it's not in transit. When you give me a tracking number, we know. But the smaller area units for the individual rooms, they're all installed. Piping's all installed. We had to do a lot of concrete cutting there. And if you know the concrete there, that's CCS concrete. They went through multiple saws, because we were cutting 10-inch concrete to 12 inches thick, even the floor. So we're headed in the right direction, and we appreciate your support. And out front, we're going to have commemorative bricks for pledges to the Boys and Girls Club, and also due to your support. There's two people I really want to take care of today. One's the judge, who is a former Boys and Girls Club member, if you didn't know. And thank you, Judge. We appreciate that. And also, I got to make sure I take care of my own magistrate. Bill and I both are over in Tim's area. But don't get it wrong. These are the bricks that will be going out in front in an area. But each one of you.
I got Tim's, but that's okay.
Oh, excuse me. I should have looked down. I thought I had it in the right hand.
Hey, I got to say this.
Yes.
Because if Charlie McCullum was here, he'd say, there's Tim. Either a bridge, it's blacktop,
Or
or now the ultimate.
It's going to be brick.
A signed brick.
But each magistrate will receive that, but also in front of the armory, we're going to have a commemorative area, and each of your names will be on bricks there also. So we thank you for your support. We're going in the right direction, and the Boys and Girls Club is a positive note for Henderson County and for Henderson County families. And I want to thank you for your time. And anytime, if the court or any individual wants to tour it today, get hold of me. Steve has my number. Tim has my number. And I'd be glad to take you through it and show you what's going on. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce.
We didn't give Bill the dress code today, so me and Bruce dressed alike, so we left old Bill out. Again, I just want to thank you, like you said, I've been involved with kids all my life, 19 years in education, principal, teacher, been CEO of the Boys and Girls Club for the last 23 years. So I can see the life challenges that has changed from families and youth over the years. And what we do is we just create hope and opportunity, not only just with our kids, but creating hope and opportunity with communities. We service kids, families, communities, and the Armory is going to make a difference. You know, it allows more space, a lot more programming, things that we'd be able to do with our kids, because we're about changing lives. And as you know, it's tougher for kids to grow up. Like probably most of you guys grew up on a farm, you play kick the can and different things, but you know what Boys and Girls Club there is that critical need from 3 to 6 o'clock after school, and then summertime from 7:30 to 5:30 during the summer. Kids are challenged every single day. I mean, so what the Armory is going to do is, first of all, form a club for our kids. Second of all, it's a storm shelter for your community. And third, it's a community building. You know, we, in our marketing terms in Owensboro, our funding is about $20,000. We market our club from volleyball tournaments to basketball tournaments to wedding receptions, you name it. We want to be a community partner. We don't want to be separate and just be a Boys and Girls Club. We really want to be involved in the community. So there are three things. One is, Bruce passed that out, and you'll see that we try to address three things. One today is safety. You know, if you look every single day, there's gun violence, there's social media, there's suicides. Those are things that we address with our kids with Boys and Girls Club. They're bombarded every single day with those things in their lives. So we have programs to establish those things. The second thing is, if you're a business person, is that workforce development piece. Kids need to have a career. They need to have some type of guidance. We see more kids from single-parent homes. We see grandparents raising kids. We see foster parents. So they need a mentor and a program who's going to address those needs. And third, the drug crisis. It's in every community. It's not just Henderson. It's Owensboro. It's everywhere. Morgantown. Is that drug issue, that opioid that's going around bombarding kids, and parents need to be educated by those things. If you're a foster parent and you're a little elderly, you don't know what's going on in kids' lives. How do you monitor that internet? How do you monitor their computers? So if you see on the back, those are the things we're investing in our teen engagement and recruitment. There's transfer software. That transfer software is a 15,000 career exploration where you can get on the Oculus and learn how to change a tire, how to change oil, how to give a shot in the medical. Those are things that we're teaching our kids virtually to get them a career path, understanding they may not be getting at school. Also, our 3D printers, we're creating investing, looking at kids create things with 3D printers. Our esports program, that is huge. It's becoming across the state. All of our clubs compete against other Boys and Girls Clubs across the state, and you can earn scholarships. It also helps people in the military, their hand coordination. Those things are just evolving. Technology is evolving, and our teens and our young kids, they want the technology. They no longer want the pool tables and things that are there. We'll have some, but we need to engage them and make sure they're on the right path. The DoBots, which is robotic programming, as you know, robotic programming is changing the world of the workplace. We need to teach our kids how to do robotics. And then we're looking at the eyewall expansion of gaming systems where they're not athletic and go to the gym. And then we see our teen program, our drug prevention, and very important is our parent involvement are too good for drugs. They educate our parents and foster parents about those. So those is our next step with Boys and Girls Clubs across the country. These are things that need to be brought to your community. We're asking for, it comes a little over $50,000. We're looking for a $50,000 investment to make sure we're changing lives in Henderson County the right way of robotics and those types of things of career development, opioid crisis. Use it as an event center, Boys and Girls Club. So you're making a great investment, a small investment, to change many kids' lives in Henderson County. So again, I want to thank your time. I know you've been very supportive of what the club is doing, but now here's our growth. We're coming from the church to the Armory. Our growth is about to explode, and we need the resources, the operating resources, and the funding to make sure our kids are getting what they need across the country. So I appreciate it, Brad. Thank you very much.
Can I just
Yes.
ask something?
Yeah.
You know, a lot of technology is needed, and that's a good thing.
Correct.
We know that's the future.
Mhm.
But still, there's a lot of need for people that are skilled with their hands in building trades.
Correct.
Have you thought about some sort of program in? I mean, I could hook you up with a guy that could.
No,
that could
we collaborate with our community colleges. That's big for us because
Okay.
our kids A lot of those are not four-year degree kids.
Right.
These are career paths that we take. So we have someone on our board from the community college. We'll be
Right.
working with them. We work with the community college in Owensboro. That's the coordination. And one step further with that, and that's a great point, is not only can we educate the child or the youth, from 14 to 18 and put them on a career path, we can also educate the mother and the father who's flipping hamburgers at McDonald's or something and have them a better career. So it's an engagement of a family, community, kids, to make things happen. That's a great question. I'm glad
Thank
you
you very
asked that.
much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
And
Yep.
Steve, I know we haven't had the capacity in Henderson, but in Owensboro, you all have collaborated with trade unions and groups like that. Is that
Yes.
correct, to work on that?
Yeah, we bring trades in, work with our kids. We just did Habitat for Humanity. Our kids built walls, then they took them out and put them in the houses. So there's a lot of things that we can do that gives us that space in the Armory. And the community, they've been great for us, but we're ready to explode and move forward and looking to investors to make sure that these things are happening in Henderson.
Very exciting.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Steve, can I ask real quick?
Yeah.
When you talk about growing exponentially.
Yes.
How many more young people are you going to be able to serve once you are able to make that move to the Armory from where you've been so far?
Well, it's been a kind of a rebound from COVID. We were serving about 125 kids a day at the church. We've kind of backed it down to 75, and it all depends on our workforce. I think we've all are facing that workforce piece of trying to get people to be involved with kids. You can just have a job. That's great, and bring them in, but we look for, make sure we have strong mentors to work with our kids to put them on a positive path, not just filling the seat, we fill it with a strong person. So it's really going to depend on the workforce that we have. We can probably create another probably serve 150 to 200 kids if we can have the workforce. And that's been slow. We just had our meeting with our lobbyists last week in Louisville, and that's a problem with all clubs across the state because we're competing with the profit world now, and we're nonprofit. So sometimes it's a challenge for us to give those wages that we can necessarily try to do.
Well,
Capacity will go from 100 at Community Baptist now. That came down because of, we need one staff member for 20 kids.
Yeah.
But we'll go to 250 capacity at the office.
If we can get staffing.
Because
Yep.
I thought you've had probably for a while now a
Yep.
waiting list, right?
Yeah,
Of
yeah.
folks that need this kind of
Exactly.
service. And we all know that affordable childcare is
Exactly.
another key for those working parents. And so you guys do help to fill some of that gap.
Yeah, and there's a couple, and I'm glad you brought that point. You guys are some smart people. One of the things is, to address that, is we charge $15 a year for membership for Boys and Girls Club. Parents are struggling to find child care from that. So that's very important. And we also have some investors that have some scholarships to make sure we have our kids. But we will make sure our kids pay something because it's a buy, even if it's $1. It's a buy into the club.
Yeah, I paid a $5 membership when I was in Owensboro growing up.
You still owe me $10.
Yeah, really. But what was great about it, they allowed me to pay that $5 off a
Yep.
quarter a week.
Exactly.
And it really did. It helped me and a friend of mine greatly to have a place that was, like you say, a safe place, a welcoming place. I can still taste the peanut butter and jelly or bologna sandwich, whatever it was. There was a little box lunch
Exactly.
usually, and that was dinner.
Yep.
Well,
I've got your invoice for $10 here. if
You got it. Okay. Well, and we'll do more than that. And I think that's great that you keep the price the way it is.
Yes.
We need to make it as accessible.
Not a
for
burden on the parents,
Yeah.
correct.
Steve,
And
go ahead, I'm sorry.
just one last thing.
Yeah.
Indulge me. Thanks for the bricks. Where can people get those? How much are those?
You can see Bruce. Bruce is in charge of our building committee, and so we put all that on Bruce. If it
That
screws
sounds
up,
good.
it's Bruce's fault.
Steve, one thing, you said it was
Yes.
$15 a year.
Yes.
I believe. Can you sponsor families? Like if
Yes.
I wanted to
Uh-huh.
pay for 10 families for a year?
Yeah,
or
and
something?
that's another great point. It's, we don't put the burden back on our parents. It's $15 a year, and we charge a minimal summer fee because we have more kids. But it cost us somewhere between probably $650 to $895 a year for a kid to go to the club. So our goal is to make sure we raise those dollars and invest in our youth and not put the burden back on our kids and keep that cost low. And yes, you can sponsor.
So if I
family.
want to pay for 10 families, in other words, I
Correct.
can, okay.
Yeah,
good,
and that's
good.
Bill Fiddler.
Bill, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
One,
Four-way bricks are $50. And then an 8-bay brick is $100.
There you go.
One last,
Also, Boys and Girls Club it's not a babysitting service.
Correct.
When they come in there, first thing they have to do is do their homework. They're required, and they have mentors working with them to teach them math, English, reading skills.
Yeah, last year Wesley Woodrow was our speaker in our one of our clubs, the Steak and Burger, and he donated 50 reading Kindles across our clubs to make sure kids were keeping up with their reading scores. So each kid received a reading Kindle at the Boys and Girls Club of Henderson. So, ours is, education, making sure they get academic success of their healthy lifestyles, eating, cooking. We do cooking classes. 4-H comes in, and make sure we build that character and citizenship and getting them out in volunteer service. So it's, people think that it's a babysitting service. We're much more than that.
Absolutely.
Because we want to create the whole child.
yeah.
For that.
Structure and foundation is very
Correct.
important. Two things. One, I'm assuming you guys have a website, people, because we all have
Yep.
one of these, so they can go and see all the services you offer, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And two, talked about the trades and things
Mm-hmm.
like that. I don't know if locally we have a partnership with the CTE at the high school. If you don't, I could probably help facilitate that.
Great.
And that's a great transition to see these younger kids, to see where they can start in high school and get an early start.
Yeah,
down that path.
and what's really critical is trying to get these teens into the building.
Yeah.
And that's that technology piece to
Sure.
get
Yeah.
them in the Boys and Girls
Sure.
Club. Because a lot of them think, oh, I'm too cool to go to the Boys and Girls Club. But when you walk in and see the things that we have, it's pretty darn cool.
And they've
coming in
got
the
a lot
club.
of that at the high school too. They've got
Yeah.
robotics and things now. So it's all very technologically
Yeah,
driven.
and
so
we want to
it's-
make sure if they don't get it at the high school level or something, there's a lot of kids that fall through the cracks.
Sure.
Who can come to the Boys and Girls Club and spend 3 hours where they have a strong mentor to be
Yes.
able to teach those skills.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, we obviously are participating in the capital campaign. In our last workshop meeting, we agreed that we are probably going to write one big check for the remainder of what we've committed to kind of complete our agreement there and get that done. And that'll be taken care of shortly.
Okay.
But are you also asking for these things from fiscal court?
Correct.
This total amount, you're making an ask of fiscal
Correct.
court?
Yep.
Are you going to be asking other entities for this laundry list, or?
Not at this time.
Okay. So, we will have this before us. I would say we need to think about it a little bit before we make any
Correct.
kind of commitment. So I would ask the magistrates to, consider this list, read through it. I can get you the contact information of these gentlemen if you want to ask more questions. I can feel your, hear your comments about whether you want to even consider this at a future date or not. I think it's worth contemplating.
I agree totally.
You certainly don't need an answer today, I would suspect.
No. And Brad, I think it would be encouraging, we're trying to put these in all of our clubs, we have 6 clubs, is that they have time and maybe take a visit to the Owensboro site and see what we've invested. We've invested about $100,000 in our teen center, and you can see the gaming, and you can see the eye walls, and you can see the robotics. We even also have a music studio where kids will get on a podcast and record their own music. So I think, there's a lot to it. If you can, one or two of you can maybe come and visit and see what we've got in our building.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And for the 2 magistrates who were not on the court when the initial capital campaign pledge was made, it might be good to go ahead and take the opportunity to tour and contact these fellows to get more information.
We might even buy them lunch. We might even buy them lunch.
I'm 100% interested, so
Yeah.
we'll
Yeah, I
get
think it'd be
done.
great. We'll buy you lunch, come over, and I think you'll be quite surprised of what we've done with our kids.
The tour is amazing, just to see what it was before and what it's become now. You can actually see that it's becoming a kid's space.
Yeah.
And it's, we put an elevator in. That was a huge cost, but
Yeah.
that it's going to be accessible to every kid.
Generator.
And that gym is fantastic. It really is. And I just, the amount of time and effort that Bruce has put into kind of being the project manager for this, I mean, really, it has saved the Boys and Girls Club a ton of money, and he has really been pinching every penny along with Steve and Bill. I mean, the thank you for what you've done. It's become pretty much a full-time job for him, it seems like. So I just want to acknowledge that's been a ton of work, and the amount of time that Bill and Bruce put into the Boys and Girls Club is phenomenal. We had, some of you were at the opioid meeting that the Attorney General's office had last week, and we had that rash of overdoses at the beginning of the year, and it was and continues to be an issue. And getting Narcan out there, getting things to stop that tide of overdoses is important, but that's a kind of a front end type thing, kind of a dealing with a symptom. I'm absolutely convinced, and one of the reasons that I'm all in with Boys and Girls Club is the only way that we're going to make a real dent in this is to build resilient kids. And that's what Boys and Girls Club is doing. Bill and I, at the beginning of this, we were looking around at all different types of programs. And when we hit on Boys and Girls Club and saw what Steve was doing over at the Cliff Hagen Club, the kind of evidence-based programming they're doing where a kid comes in and before every module that they do, they're pre-tested and then they're post-tested to see if they're actually moving the needle. The fact that this organization for over 100 years has been tracking what does work and what doesn't work as far as helping kids is amazing. So that's one of the reasons I'm all in, because I really think that's the only thing that is going to make a real difference in the long run. And it's a long game. We won't see all the dividends for 10 or 15 years, but it's going to make a huge difference.
Correct. Thank you, Steve.
And Steve's conservative, I think, on that. I think you'll see impacts right away. Now, some of these larger issues, you're right, but I think we're already seeing impact. If I'm hearing you all correctly, I think we're going to take this under consideration.
Correct. Thank you.
And feel free to reach out for your own research, and maybe I'll consult at a future date when we want to discuss more and make a decision. Is that fair?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Ju-
Thank
just
you
a
for your
point
time.
of in- Just a point of
Yes.
interest, it's every time I hear the old Armory name come up, we used to rent it out, it was in high school.
Yeah.
And play basketball.
That
And you'd
Armory's
go
that
to-
old?
And it had you could be going down the court and hit a spot and it's just dead.
Oh, it's dead.
Now, I don't know if anybody in here remembers that.
It
I
was
do.
dead.
Yeah, McCollum, he can tell you about it too. But thank you, guys.
Basketball to do, Jeff.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you for your time, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And if you think you're too cool to go to the Boys and Girls Club, you can just do what my friend and I used to do. They'd ask, well, where you guys been? And we'd say, oh, we were at the Moose Lodge.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Next, we have a presentation by Leslie Crampy on the progress of a project that I hope we're all familiar with by now. We've been talking about it for so long, and it is underway. The Kenergy and Connexon build-out of high-speed fiber to the home, a network that will cover a large footprint around our region, and is happening in Henderson County right now. And to preface this, Leslie, if you don't mind, as many of the former, the carryover magistrates, for want of a better term, know, when we were presented ARPA funds, one of the very first bullet-pointed uses that the federal government put on the use of ARPA funds was for internet service to rural America. And the COVID pandemic exposed gaps in our national infrastructure, especially in that regard. And so in trying to figure out a way to bring high-speed internet to the maximum number of Henderson Countyans in the shortest amount of time, we have held on to $4 million, a little over $4 million of ARPA funds to wait until a solution would present itself. And 2 years ago, Kenergy, thanks in large part to the efforts of this lady right here, began to consider doing what many other electrical co-ops around the country have done, is utilizing their existing infrastructure, their network, and their expertise working with rural America to get into the internet broadband business. And while there is lots of money out in the world now created by the federal government and state government to help these build-outs, is very competitive, and to try to secure as much money as possible is everybody's goal. Conexon with Kinergy made the commitment to build out this network in our region, but also made it clear that any extra monies that could be brought to the table would help counties speed up this process. And so, as Leslie will know, I pestered both Conexon and Kinergy to present me a plan, show me how $4 million from Henderson County would make this better, faster, easier for people, easier for the construction team. And I'm happy to say that she is here today to actually do that. And it's both exciting and very serious, because I know that we're talking about millions of dollars. We want to do the right thing. But it's also a very, very important topic. I don't know that there's a single issue that has been brought to my attention more by citizens of this community in the last 4 years than the lack of high-speed internet access outside the city limits, bar none. So with that, a weighty statement, I'm going to turn it over to Leslie to show where we are, what's possible, and what Conexon is thinking. So Leslie,
Great.
take it away.
Great, thank you. And thank you for having me today. I appreciate the opportunity to get to present and share some information with you. One point I want to introduce Travis Seward. He's with Kinergy. He is the Vice President of Accounting and Finance. Did I get that right? Okay, he's the money man behind all this. The new CEO of Kinergy, Tim Lindell, couldn't be here today. They had a Kinergy board meeting at the same time, so he sent his regards, but he did want to be here today. Kinergy, as you know, the fiber to the home project is well underway. It's a $150 million project across 14 counties in western Kentucky. I'm excited to say there's 362 home installs that have happened so far. So I know that doesn't sound like much, but it is a lot with the amount of make-ready engineering and make-ready construction that's going on and all the pole change-outs. We have 362 happy internet customers. So that's a big feat. So that shows you that it is well underway and it's getting ready to pick up a lot of steam. As Judge Snyder mentioned, that he and Kinergy, or Conexon, I always say Kinergy and Conexon, it's too confusing here. Conexon partner Jonathan Chambers have been in multiple discussions about how Conexon could possibly speed up this project in Henderson County. I'm going to show you all just a little bit of pricing first so that you all can understand and be able to compare with other providers that are in Henderson County. Conexon Connect with Kinergy offers 3 different packages of internet. The first one being the basic package is 100 megabits per second, and that's $49.95 a month. That is just our basic package that's kind of recommended for households with just normal web surfing, 0 to 5 devices in the house. Then we go up to 1 gigabit internet. That's the premier service for $79.95 a month. And then we go up to the ultimate, which is 2 gigabits, excuse me, for $99.95 a month. All of those, we do honor the ACP, the Affordable Connectivity Program, where there is a $30 subsidy. That's a federal subsidy, so we do participate in that program. So someone, if they qualified, could get $30 off of those packages a month, making it very affordable.
Can I interject a
Yes.
little bit? One of the things that really got me enthusiastic about the Conexon partnership with Kinergy are these prices. I don't know how many of you, I know most of you probably buy some sort of service now. You have to have some sort of service, but 100 megabytes, and that's balanced upload, same upload as download.
Yes, that is fiber into the home. There's no coax cable, no copper lines. It's a direct fiber connection.
For $50 a month, with no requirement to bundle any other service up, and spend more money. Again, fiber to the home, so it's not reliant as one service that's available in our community now. Wireless line of sight technology that can be disrupted a lot of different ways. Fiber to the home is, knock on wood, pretty foolproof and future-proof. I don't know about y'all, but these prices mean to me that 99% of Henderson Countyans will be able to afford this if they want to, especially when you figure in the discount of the federal program you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, I'll when the judges who were helping push this saw these price menu, it really opened my eyes. Because right now at home, I pay a lot more than $49.95 for 30 megabit service.
Right.
And I'm thankful for it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I agree, it's very affordable. One point of confirmation, clarification. A lot of people work at home these days, and I'm assuming being a fiber direct connection, there's no problem with latency or connection with VPNs.
None.
Because I know a lot with satellites and things like that, you can't do that because of latency causes issues. So I'm
Right.
assuming we're good there, right?
No issues at all.
Right, just want to confirm. A lot of people may not know that, so it's
Mhm.
important to know.
Yes, thank you.
Please, Karen.
Yes, okay. So very affordable pricing. So just wanted to go ahead and point that out before we continue on so that you have that in mind as well. And then just to let you know, all Connexon Connect customers across the country have this pricing if Connexon is the ISP. So we're very consistent with that. We do offer phone and other DirecTV packages as well. And when you go in to sign up for service, you can go through, and the customer service is wonderful to help you pick which package is best for your family or your home. All right, so here we go with the maps. Try not to bore you too much with maps and numbers today. This is the original build-out plan showing Henderson County being built. The blue area means that service will be built out in 2023. The green area is 2024, and then the orange area is 2025. You may ask, why is Henderson and parts of Hancock County last on the list? And that's because the FCC considers most of Henderson County served with some type of provider. Yeah.
And let me call BS on that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of this is self-reporting. The FCC has an imperfect method for gathering up accurate information on who is truly serving a community and merely versus merely saying it is serving a community. And again, some of the provision of services also depend on the buying of bundled up packages that's very expensive. So technically they serve, but in all practical purposes they don't. And as I looked at this first map, this map was presented to us, 6 months ago. The first thing I noticed was that the two last sections going into this build out were in Henderson County, a pretty good chunk of Henderson County, and then Hancock County. And as Leslie said, my first question after that was, well, why? And now the answer is we're one of the more populous counties in this footprint, so there are more cell phone towers here and things like that that some companies can use to say we serve them. And as you know, it's on the ground, it's really not true.
Right.
So go ahead.
Absolutely. So unfortunately, that's what the FCC's Form 477 that everybody goes by. So I know Kentucky State's working on updated maps, but until the state and the local maps get updated with the FCC maps, this is the way it's going to look, unfortunately.
And remind me, the reason that the FCC consideration of who's served and who's underserved and who's not served at all impacts who gets funding to build it out. So that's why this is important. Those brown areas are considered to be served already, so Connexon judged that they would be the hardest, take the longest to get federal and state grants for to build out. Am I
That's
stating
correct.
that accurately?
Yes. Yes.
So that's why there's this timeline that hurts us in some ways here, because Connexon is already guessing it will be hard to get funding for it.
Absolutely. All right, so there's the ugly map. Now I'll say this one gets a lot prettier. This is, Connexon has committed to serving 100% of the Kinergy members, I say customers, but they're actually members, they own the cooperative in Henderson County by the end of 2024 with the help of $4 million in the ARPA funds. This would accelerate the build to get your constituents service 1 year earlier than expected.
That's in Henderson County.
That's in Henderson County. So all of Henderson County residents that are Kinergy members would be served by the end of 2024.
So you see on the left hand, that little legend up there in the top right,
Yes. So in
3,434 homes go from having to wait till 2025, get moved up into having it completed by 2024.
Absolutely.
So several hundred go from being completed in 2024 up to being complete this year, hooked up
Right.
this year.
So it's additional about 2,400 homes or locations that would be excelled in 2023, and then a little over 1,000 in 2024 to get everybody served. Just for comparisons, just for the numbers, Davis County gave $10 million in ARPA funds to the project for roughly about 15,000 locations. So that averages about $667 per household. $4 million in Henderson ARPA funds would equate to about $433 per household.
One question, being a member of the Kenergy Co-op, we don't get to choose our power. What about the people who are served by KU? Are we lumped into that situation as well, or how do we stand there?
That's interesting. It's a great question. Connexon has engaged KU, and we have had very early discussions. We're trying to get the right people at KU to sit down with us, but Connexon would love to look at the data for those KU members. We assume that that would look good since they usually have the more dense areas than Kenergy, but we would absolutely love to work with KU if they're willing to.
Okay.
And it would make sense to have these conversations earlier while we're doing the
Sooner
build
rather than
out.
later.
So,
Agreed.
yeah.
To address that, because I do get that question. KU is a separate entity, does not have to do this. does not have
No,
to
I
get it
I understand. I was just asking if
Right.
there was
Connexon's offering to
partner
partner
with them.
similar
Yeah.
with them.
Yeah.
There are other, thankfully, in those pockets of KU customers, there are some options. They're not great, but they're there.
Absolutely.
But again, to reach the most amount of people in the shortest amount of time, Kenergy offered the best solution. And KU, I don't know of anywhere else in Kentucky where KU has actually even broached this yet.
No, they have not. That's why we're trying to get the right people involved.
And they're
Right.
they're governed differently than a local co-op like
They are.
Kenergy is. They're a
They're not.
full-blown independent private utility, right?
Investor-owned utility, yes. So-
Right, and that's just questions that I have been asked too, so I just wanted to make sure I wasn't spreading bad information.
Right, yes, absolutely.
But they, you said you have reached out to them?
We
to
have
try-
reached out to them. We've asked for their meter data within that area, and we've not received it yet. So,
When you say meter data, you basically mean number of customers, right?
yes, number of customers, substation locations. So, the great part about this and why it makes sense for electric cooperatives to get into this business is because it strengthens the electric system. Kenergy is actually going to own the fiber, and they're going to use that for their downline devices for smart grid, so they can see everything that happens on their system. So it's a benefit of the electric system. It's also for broadband as well. So it kind of has dual purpose, but that's going to be an investment owned by the members of Kenergy, and it's going to be a 30 to 50-year asset that's going to be making money with the connections.
One of the
subscribers.
questions that's often asked is, is the internet system going to go in at the expense of current electrical customers? Is the electrical side going to subsidize the internet side? And the answer is no, and that's one of the reasons why Kenergy had to go to the PSC to get this plan approved. Connexon, I believe, has already indicated by the number of people who have already expressed a desire to get this service that it will cash flow, especially with some subsidies up front. And will cash flow for some time to allow them to pay back any loans they have to take out or anything like that. So
Yes, so kudos to Kenergy that have, taken off and willing to invest $150 million and borrow money. So any contributions are just going to help Kenergy members. Kenergy borrows the money, and Connexon pays a monthly lease fee to lease that fiber to provide internet service to the members. So the co-op is made whole through that lease payment to Kenergy. So just $4 million would be locally owned. The profits would remain within Kenergy footprint, within Henderson County, and it would also strengthen the electric system for the electric members.
Yeah, do I understand, are you replacing poles as part of this? And Are we
Absolutely.
kind of maybe upgrading some of the system that needed to be upgraded anyway?
Yes, absolutely. It did get quite an upgrade during the ice storm in 2009, unfortunately. But yes, they are having to change out a lot of poles. Travis may know how
That's
many poles.
probably where a lot of the expense comes in.
Yes, most
I
of
would
it
guess.
is labor for that. Mhm.
Is this-
Original estimates were about a whole mile, so we were looking at maybe 6,000 poles that would be changed. And it's either for loading, so that the pole can handle the additional portable height for clearance. So a lot of the poles are going up 5 feet, and they've got a bigger class pole, the ones that are being changed.
So it'll strengthen the existing electrical system.
Absolutely.
For customers.
And that's not a bad thing at all either.
No, it's
Plus,
not.
what does this do to help our rural schools as far as access to the type of technology that they're going to be needing from here on out?
Absolutely, yeah. There's going to be 2 gig service available for the schools as well. Once the fiber is installed, the equipment on the ends can be upgraded quickly. So this is a 10 gigabit system. New equipment, it can go up to 40 gig or more. So
I can't tell you how big a jump. This is like light speed now all of a sudden for rural customers. There's an interesting stat. And is this your last slide, Leslie?
got that one, just a close-up of Henderson County.
This is the before and after.
Mm-hmm. And then
I'll let you keep going. There's a couple things that's really interesting.
Yeah, so this is how you sign up for service in case anyone asks. You can go to connectsonconnect.com and choose Kenergy as the provider, and then, or you can call this number. I would suggest calling the number because I think they're wonderful on how to walk you through the different options. And we also have a Facebook page that's Connect powered by Kenergy. That's all,
And
Brad.
it's important to be, we're going to be sending out the message, or Kenergy's going to be sending out the message that it's important for people to go on there now, and even if it's not there yet, to say, yes, I want it, so that when it does get there, they know.
Right, there's no obligation. If you do go on there and sign up, we're just asking so that we know what type of fiber and what count to install as we go down. And it'll also put you on the list for notification on different mailings to let you know we're coming, we're in the area. It's quite a process. There's make-ready engineering, make-ready construction, and then you have the fiber install, but it's not connected yet. They have to do the drops to the home, the splicing, and then the home install. So you have a lot of different contractors coming and going throughout the process.
One of which is Irvin Cable, which
It
is
is.
going as fast as they can possibly go, from what I understand.
Yes. Connexon builds at an incredible pace. We don't have any trouble finding contractors to work for us because we go so quickly. They get paid by the miles, so they like working for Connexon because it's fast and furious, and they can turn over the jobs and keep going on. Yes, Irvin Cable's been a wonderful partner. We're just trying to get ahead of the make-ready. You want to be a couple of substations ahead. That way they can just come and lay the fiber and do the installs. So there's been a little bit of kind of some kinks to work out to get that going and get the process lined up.
You all know Irvin Cables now. Got an office in Henderson County as well.
Mhm.
Sturgis.
Yeah.
An interesting note from a recent meeting we had with Jonathan Chambers is that what is called the take rate, the initial indication of how many folks in the region want this. It was one piece of data that Connexon could use to kind of figure out whether people were really going to buy in and want the service. The take rate has been very strong.
It has been.
And did he mention that, to his surprise, most of the people requesting service did not indicate they wanted the basic $50 100 megabyte service, which is much more than I have right now and would serve my home. You can do anything you want in a normal home, including streaming, with 100 megabyte, but most of them wanted the full gig or more.
Yes, a third are doing each. So you have a third doing the small pack, the lower package at 100 megabits, a third doing the 1 gig, and a third doing 2 gig.
So two-thirds a gig or higher.
Mhm.
It's an indication of the desire, I think, of people wanting that high-speed option like they have in big cities. They want what everybody else experiences. And I don't know, for those who live in the city, I don't know, is 1 gig service pretty easy to latch onto now, easy to
Yeah.
buy?
Well, hold on.
AT&T, I know, provided, who I'm
Well,
with.
I pay for a gig service, paid for a gig in Henderson, but I didn't get it.
actually get it.
Spectrum.
I just upgraded my plan because for some reason they kept me on an old outdated plan because they were able to charge me more for less. And it wasn't until I actually canceled my son's internet when he moved that I found out I had an outdated plan. So now I'm paying a little bit less, but I'm now only up to 300 megs. So I'm nowhere near the gig, but I'm paying what you're charging for a gig.
And
So
then-
yeah, I want, can
And then
can
12
Kenergy come
months,
into the city?
in 12 months, it'll be much more expensive than that. They'll ratchet it up.
And I'll just kind of piggyback on what the judge is indicating here too, and Tim knows this, anyone in farming, agriculture today, This is not just a want, this is a need.
It is.
And I know when I worked at the radio station, we needed connectivity out in the county at some of our remote transmitter sites and translator sites to use technology to be able to monitor our equipment so we could stay in compliance. And it's just not there in some places. So again, and especially if we want to see some more growth in our county, they expect this.
Absolutely. Kids that go off to college and come back, they expect it. As Steve
Oh,
was
yeah.
saying, any of the technology to keep the kids here and engaged, you have to have it.
You know, that 100 gig household of two, my wife and myself, I got 11 devices running. That's why I
You're
had to
exactly
move up.
right.
Because, you don't realize all this stuff that you're using. I mean, everything's Bluetoothing and it's stuff's running all the time. And it's
TVs,
crazy.
phones,
I have
yeah.
a friend that has a washing machine that even has an app.
Yeah.
That just blows my mind.
So, so one more question. I know this is early on too. Who are you guys contracting somebody to handle the service side of this once things get up and going, or has that been talked about?
That will be handled, yes, we will have contractors in the area that will take care of that and maintain the system. Mhm. Yes.
Well, lucky, I live in Cardin, which is, they got a lot of Kenergy, but they also have a lot of KU. So
Yeah, down Highway
the
60.
more you can push the KU guys, it would be wonderful, because this is great. And unfortunately, on the south end of Cardin, which is KU, is very underserved when it comes to internet.
Yes.
Very
Yes,
underserved.
I'm hoping that KU has a need for fiber through their electric system as well, that would benefit us.
I do believe that because of the amount of money out there for system build-out, that you will see some of the big three, as it were, take some of that money and also try to bump up their systems to help, people who might not have access otherwise. So there may be more options, but it will also be subject to the vagaries of the big three, the way they operate. One of the things I really like about this plan is what you said, their customer service will be overseen in basically the partnership with Kenergy. So it will be local customer service, locally controlled system. Kenergy's board of directors will be able to ask questions of Connex and make sure this is going smoothly, will represent local customers in a way that makes them much closer to their service and its quality versus other providers who are national corporations. That makes sense. I like that kind of local, a bit of local control in that regard.
That made me think of something else too. There's, I'm not going to say significant, but there are several places in the county where Kenergy and KU power grids overlap. So say you're in one of those areas where there's Kenergy poles and power, would that still, if you were a KU, because you could be on this side of the road, it'd be KU, and this side of the road would be Kenergy. Would that still exclude you from that, even though you've got Kenergy utility poles right out in your front yard?
Kenergy is going to build to Kenergy members first.
Well, yes, I
Yeah.
understand it's first, but I'm just
Yes.
saying, if it was there, your addressing is going to be similar. I didn't know if that's how they did it or
Yeah.
not.
I think it would take KU's
It would take
agreement.
KU's pole attachment agreements to be agreeable in some way, and I don't see Connex on paying pole attachment agreements
Well,
without
like
some
for
type
instance,
of.
my house, I've got a Kenergy pole in my front yard.
Right.
So there's no pole attachment agreement because Kenergy's right there, but I'm not a Kenergy customer.
Oh.
The power comes to the backside of my house.
There's a lot
There's
of
a
that.
lot of that.
A lot of that
Oh,
in
yeah.
You see
Cardin.
what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
So
But again,
that's-
So it's
that's
so
up to
close.
KU.
Have
Yeah.
both poles
well,
in your yard.
yeah, I mean, I just didn't know money's money.
Yeah, if you could pay to have a drop from
Yes.
there,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
I don't know.
I will say the rules in Kentucky around the delineation of service areas among utilities is very confusing and frustrating.
It is.
Sure.
But the companies are also very protective of that. And so in those situations, it's unfortunate because you can see a Kenergy pole right in your front yard, but you're not served by Kenergy.
I
It's
understand.
unfortunate, yeah.
Yep.
But maybe KU will see the light.
Hope so. There's KU service in every one of the Kenergy counties, with the exception of Hancock County. So there's some type of KU service, and we call them the little donut holes that are around. So we do hope that they'll
Sure.
come to the table.
I'm hoping KU will see the light in perhaps another revenue
Yeah,
stream.
Yeah,
absolutely.
there's not a lot of downside to it.
Yeah, so
So-
I'm just excited that it's going to be locally owned and that the revenues will stay
Yeah, this is
at
This
the
is great.
Kenergy
I'm just asking
membership.
questions because they asked me.
Yeah.
So if we put the $4 million toward this,
Mhm.
Do we get some kind of, something in writing that says that it's going to happen?
Yes, absolutely. So the way it would be structured, it would be $2 million payment like this year, and then $2 million upon a completion. And we would have an agreement written up similar to what we have with Davis County.
Yeah, that half now, half then is suggested.
Yeah, yeah.
We have a copy of the Davis County contract with Conexon. Steve and I are reviewing it. I think Steve's had a chance to look it over. They did a quarter payments, I believe, or kind of $1 million at a time based on certain benchmarks. It was suggested from Conexon that we do a 2-payment thing with certain benchmarks, year 1, year 2 type thing. And I think Steve and I can work on adjusting the model of Davis County to reflect our need here and bring it back to court.
That'd be great. It'd be much appreciated from Kinergy and Conexon as well.
Just trying to think towards the future again and our, parks and maybe other county facilities that could benefit from having access to internet. Would there be some kind of agreement? I don't know if that's allowed or not as part of this, where we could, maybe get either a free drop or a...
That can be included as long as it's Kinergy territory. Absolutely.
Exactly, yeah.
I believe all of our parks are served by Kinergy, if I'm not mistaken.
That's kind of what I was wondering.
So, with court's permission, we'd like to move forward on maybe creating an agreement, a contract.
So moved.
And,
Let's do it.
Second.
Great.
motion and a second.
What you been waiting for?
Yeah, I mean, it's so exciting to be at, and I don't want to pontificate too much, but rural internet has become as much a necessity for Americans as electricity was back when the co-ops were created to specifically address the lack of service in rural America. This is no longer a luxury, not by any stretch. And we put ourselves in an economic development disadvantage by not having the
If we
service
don't.
out in our community.
Absolutely, yeah.
And if we're going to do it, we might as well do it with the service that's able to do it most quickly and provide the most horsepower for the least amount of money for our people. I have no doubt that the competition for the dollars that people will spend on internet will create more providers in our community coming out and saying, we're better than Kinergy. And I say,
Bring it
great.
on.
More options for
Absolutely.
rural residents, the better.
Yeah.
Right now, they have very few. Conexon is prepared to fight for business. I think the use of this subsidy, in our case, gets more people hooked up with high-speed service in the short amount of time than any other plan I know of or see.
It's just
Now-
a smart investment in our community.
One thing that, and Steve might have noticed this, is that Davis County actually put this out for bid. And Kinergy was the only one that came through with a plan that met the bid specs. I believe we will have to do the same thing.
Yes.
We will put this out for bid. Conexon is prepared to bid. I will get a copy of the bid spec that Davis County used. And that's not to say that we are automatically going to go with Kinergy and Conexon, but I think for our needs, the price range, and other factors, I don't know that there will be many bidders who can offer something along those lines. But legally, I think the Conexon team understands we have to do this a certain way.
Absolutely.
So as we also work on a potential agreement that any bid winner would have to meet with us, we'll also work on that RFP and get it ready to send out with your permission. So we have a motion and a second. Can we amend the motion to include the permission to go out for a
And
bid?
can we also add in there of the dollar amount we're talking about and where these funds are coming from, just for the
Yeah.
record?
Yeah, so the motion would be both to work on an agreement and RFP for $4 million from ARPA funds from Henderson County.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
I just think, it is the 21st century, and when you got children that's living in the county, and they got to drive to get a hotspot, if they, if the parents don't buy the hotspot thing through AT&T or some other organization, that this is fantastic to get them the service that they need to actually to perform the work that they need to do at school with those Chromebooks.
Exactly, and kudos to Kinergy that was working on this before the pandemic hit. If there's anything good that came out of the pandemic, it's the need to have access to reliable, high-speed broadband. Yes.
Okay, so any other discussion?
No.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Forge ahead.
And
Thank you, Leslie.
thank you
Thank
to each
you.
and every one of you.
Is there someone we could, as a KU customer, is there someone I could contact?
We'll find you a number, for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Count me in on that.
Okay, some housekeeping. A couple of appointments were needed. First, for the Planning Commission, Doug Bell, many of you know, has moved. He served on the Planning Commission. It was a county appointment. After some research on a good replacement to fill out the rest of Doug's term, I was able to get a commitment from Heather Taves, who is, if you don't know Heather, she is Air Force, retired Air Force engineer, MIT grad, probably the most overqualified member of the Planning Commission we've ever appointed, but she has graciously agreed, even as a mom of young children, to take this on, and it's an important position, probably after City Commission and Fiscal Court. The Planning Commission is one of the most impactful bodies of government we have. And also on the Planning Commission, David Williams, longtime member, his current term's expiring. I'd like to reappoint him. He's done a very good job. So this is not necessarily, I don't need your approval on these appointments necessarily, but I'd like to ask in advance if there's any issues with reappointing David Williams, and bringing Heather Taves on to replace Doug Bell. I think outstanding pair of folks to do this job. Good. Now, the next appointment does require fiscal court approval. I believe, Steve, every 10 years we handle magisterial redistricting. It's based on census data, and one of the state's requirements of every county is to make sure its magisterial districts are as balanced as possible population-wise, as, you know, to get as close as we can. I believe it's within 5% in each district as to similar population. And because of population shifts, every 10 years we have to look at these and make sure that our magisterial districts are balanced population-wise as possible. And the requirement is to appoint a panel of local citizens to work with, also our county clerk and any other folks who can technically help them redraw the lines such that they make sense and balance out the populations among districts as much as possible. So I have identified 3 citizens who have are willing to help. The requirements were that they cannot live in the same district. No two can live in the same district. So we had to spread them out, and they just and hopefully have a good mix of city and county residents. So the 3 that who have asked to and have agreed to help with this are Janet Horton, who is a local business executive, and she lives in District 1. She lives in Broadview subdivision. Alan Taylor, retired businessman here. He lives in the city and lives in District 2. And then Rhonda Smith, mayor of Corydon, who lives in District 3. They will be working with Renisa Abner and also Mr. Raymer from the GIS office to help with this. It should be a fairly smooth process this time around, because a lot of the technological framework that was needed 10 years ago but was kind of new at that point has now been refined. I think this, from what I'm told from Renisa, this can be a much easier process, and maybe we haven't had much population shift, so it won't be that difficult. Another one of the things they do is try to, with the population numbers in mind, maybe try to smooth out the lines between districts so that they're not heading through farm fields and things like that. Maybe more closely adhere to roadways, easy landmarks, make it easier to figure, but we'll just have to see how that goes. Steve, any additional comments?
No, well, just some of the issues deal with, because we have to go down to the precinct level as well. So some of the precincts were set so long ago that they used things that are no longer permissible to use as boundary lines, things like tree lines and fences that aren't there anymore, things like that. So that's one of the issues we had last time, was creating those legal descriptions for all of those. But Chris has been through that before, and Kyle Evans and I in my office have gone through that once now, so we're should be able to do a lot. Hopefully, we rooted out a lot of those things last time. The one of my understanding is that we're not actually out of compliance in any of our districts now. It's just we're getting close in a couple, so it's going to be more fiddling around the edges than whole cloth type things, unless the commission comes to you with a pretty radical change, which they can.
Yeah, but I don't expect. They want to do it quickly and easily. So I do need your approval for the appointing of Janet Horton, Alan Taylor, and Rhonda Smith, as well as Renise Abner as a non-voting member to this redistricting committee. Can I get a motion to that effect?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions on that or discussion?
Just out of curiosity, what is it about 10,000 per district?
I don't know.
Somewhere in
I'm
there.
not sure off the top of my head, but
I-
it's supposed to be evenly divided
Yeah.
among the districts within a county, as evenly as possible.
Right. I don't know that number. I was just kind of.
I don't know if there's a minimum and maximum other than it needs
I
to be
think
as
it has to
evenly
be
divided
within
as
that
possible.
5%, like you said, per district. So.
Yeah, you take the total and divide it by the 5, assuming that the idea is to keep the 5. And then that's your baseline, and then everything else is a deviation from that baseline. You try to hit an average with each of those.
I was curious, really, because just to see, maybe give you some, how much growth we actually had for us, population-wise. It's
To clarify
But-
too, this involves no consideration for voter registration, partisanship, anything like that. It's merely population, total people.
I was just curious about total population. Moving right along, Judge.
Right, well, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We have a little addendum to the WARM grant agreement we passed last meeting. This is an MOU that I overlooked and just want to get it taken care of, and I'll let Kurt read a resolution to that effect.
And in your defense, Judge, I think this may have been Greg getting the cart before the horse on that, not you.
I will take responsibility, but we'll get it squared up right now.
Resolution authorizing Henderson County Judge Executive to execute Community Development Block Grant Agreement with the Commonwealth of Kentucky for the Women's Addiction Recovery Manor, WARM. Whereas Henderson Fiscal Court previously approved the application for a Community Development Block Grant for the Women's Addiction Recovery Manor, and whereas Henderson County was approved for a grant not to exceed $200,000 for the WARM project, and whereas the Henderson Fiscal Court deems it in the best interest of the Henderson County to enter into the CBDG grant agreement with the Commonwealth of Kentucky for the WARM project. Now therefore be it resolved that as Henderson County Fiscal Court authorizes and directs County Judge Executive Brad Schneider to execute the attached CDBG agreement and to execute any and all other necessary and appropriate documents required to effectuate the intent thereof.
So move.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions about that? Sorry for the confusion on this. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. You remember Missy Vanderpool came last meeting and described to us the need to have a fiscal agent for a relatively large grant to be used at 4-Star to construct a 1 million square foot flat pad on the largest property there. This is the formal resolution agreeing for Henderson County to ask as fiscal agent. This is pass-through money. 4-Star board itself will be offering the 50% match, but technically a county local government does have to make the application. Any questions about that?
We share that. Have we talked to the other counties? Are they okay with the?
I communicated with the judge executives and heard no objection.
Okay.
And again, I reiterated to them that this particular transaction does not accrue any fee, profit, or revenue to us. We are merely a conduit
Right.
as required by the grant application process, and that what we hope to see is this grant used to create a pad that lands a plant that pays taxes that we certainly can share with them. So I made that clear, and I heard no objection from any of the other judges. So, any other questions before we read this resolution?
They passed the same resolution.
The
Webster
board,
Union and all the board, all the
the board
members
did,
are from
yeah.
various counties.
technically, the other counties aren't required to
Okay,
pass this.
got it.
The board passed, the Board of the Western Kentucky Regional Industrial Development Authority passed a resolution requesting that the Henderson Fiscal Court act as fiscal agent for this KPDI grant. They are made up of appointed members from the fiscal courts of the other communities, and as we were here last time, Missy said she was going to advise the other fiscal courts of this. I don't believe they ended up getting anything in their minutes of those fiscal courts specifically approving anything. We were sending text to her this morning verifying that and have not received any response back.
But independently of that, I sent a summary of this to my fellow judges, asking for any objection, any questions, and got none. So,
Got it. I finished reading it, so I could have read a little more of that.
and just to clarify Steve's point, the objections in the past and the issue we're still dealing with involved incentives that were given to the original Columbia project back in 2004 that waived property taxes on Columbia, and of course, by waiving property taxes, eliminated the potential revenue for the various counties for a period of time. And current judges wondered aloud, should that kind of incentive been approved, not just by the four-star board, but by all the fiscal courts? And I will say, if we get involved in some sort of large incentive with a future resident of four-star, we will make sure that all the fiscal courts are on board first. That may be a little clunky, a little tough to shepherd, but we obviously don't want to have this argument come up again. So when it comes down to actions that may keep revenues from accruing to the other counties, there'll have to be an agreement. We'll have to have an agreement, or we will want to have an agreement so we don't have this argument again.
We will want it in writing.
Yeah.
There was ample agreement
Yeah.
from
So-
the then county judges of all those counties as they were at the Columbia groundbreaking and grand opening.
So
They
here's-
were on board.
Here's my question. Being as we are the primary stakeholder here, and the others have lesser roles or lesser, do all votes count equal?
Well, that's a good question. We have to, I guess, have to cross that bridge when we get to it. But I would say yes. They all put money in at the beginning. Well, I should say they didn't put money in. They had to agree that coal severance, that some of which was produced by all four counties, or at least three of the four
And I
counties,
get
could be
that,
used for
but was
that.
it equal parts is what I'm saying. So they're contributing equal parts to what we do.
This agreement, and there are bylaws and there's an agreement, and it predates everybody up here. I think if we had a time machine, we'd all go back and make it a little clearer. I think they were one of the first multi-county collaborate. It was the first in the state, and I think the state had just a general go-by, and I think the
Gotcha.
county attorneys of the counties at those times just kind of went with it. And it didn't really get into a lot of details. There are, with regard to profits that may come from, or the split, there's a differentiation among the counties for that based on, I think, initial stake that they put into it. But as far as the board of the WKRIDA, all of those votes are equal.
Okay.
Our revenue share is actually weighted,
Yeah.
as Steve just said, for taxes that accrue to one of the fiscal courts based on, and that would only be one of two, Webster County or Henderson County, because those are the two counties in which the park sits. Henderson County gets 30%, Webster 30%, Union and McLean 20% each. So it is weighted in that regard, revenue-wise. But the votes on the board, all the counties have the same number of seats on that board, and they're all equal.
Right. Okay.
I got to bring this up. You know, we really never really got lined out necessarily on the other counties thinking when you waived the taxes that they wanted all the special taxing districts taxes to be, we included. It was all inclusive, all taxes we collected, right?
Well,
We couldn't waive the, I mean, they were saying they wanted the school board tax, health department tax,
Right,
Farm
and
Farm
we-
Bureau tax,
right,
but we took the total.
We made the argument back that we could not do that
Right.
on their behalf. And one county probably still might disagree, but there has been no
At this
pushback or
point, I
talk
would
since.
recommend any further discussion of that be done in executive session based on the threat of potential litigation.
Do you want to continue to talk about it?
No, I just was curious if there was any more action that had happened, really, with that issue, but having none, no, I'm good.
I'd say no.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I believe we have a motion in a second.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
When you read the
Oh, I'm sorry.
resolution, we don't have a motion.
I'm sorry.
We don't have
I
a
was
second
hoping,
for a
I was
motion.
asking for a motion. I was wondering if you reminded me. We always make a motion in a second and then talk for 15 minutes. But go ahead and please read the resolution.
A resolution of the Fiscal Court of Henderson County, Kentucky, supporting submittal of a Kentucky Product Development Initiative application by the West Kentucky Regional Industrial Development Authority, Incorporated, for further development of a build-ready heavy industrial site at 4-Star Industrial Park in Henderson County, Kentucky. Whereas Western Kentucky Regional Industrial Development Authority, Incorporated, a Kentucky nonprofit corporation and special purpose government entity whose board is comprised of representatives appointed by the fiscal courts of Henderson, McLean, Union, and Webster counties, is the owner of certain real property and facilities located thereon located in Henderson, Webster counties. Whereas WKRIDA is engaged in development of an approximately 800-acre industrial park in Henderson, Webster counties, known as 4-Star Industrial Park, which has already been successful in attracting industry and employment to the region. Whereas the newly established Kentucky Product Development Initiative, KPDI, is a statewide effort to support upgrades at the industrial sites throughout the Commonwealth and to position Kentucky for continued economic growth. Whereas KPDI, a collaboration between the Kentucky Cabinet for Economic Development and Kentucky Association for Economic Development, includes $1 million in state funding towards upgrades of sites and buildings across the state. Whereas WKRIDA desires to apply for a $700,000 KPDI grant for the purpose of developing an approximately 1 million square foot engineered dirt pad, which would be suitable for heavy industrial use on approximately 102-acre area within the 4-Star Industrial Park. And whereas WKRIDA, whose board members include representatives from Henderson, Webster, Union, and McLean counties, has passed a resolution requesting funds that the Henderson County Fiscal Court serve as fiscal agent for grant funds which may be received under a KDPI grant. Whereas KDPI grants require 50% local match for WRKIDA will be responsible and shall fully fund for the purposes of this grant. Whereas further project will enhance the economic position of Henderson, Union, Webster, and McLean counties by causing new residents and income to be injected into the local economy, improving the quality of life. Whereas the Henderson County Fiscal Court, for the reasons stated above, desires to support the request of the WKRIDA for up to $700,000 in funding for the project from the KPDI program, which funding will enable the WKRIDA to attract industries which will provide substantial employment for the residents of the WKRIDA partner counties. And where it is appropriate that this resolution be adopted in order to evidence such support. Now, therefore, it be resolved by the Fiscal Court of the County of Henderson, Commonwealth of Kentucky as follows. 1, it is hereby found, determined, and declare that the statements of the facts set forth in the preamble to this resolution are true and accurate in all respects, and the preamble of all recitals therein are incorporated in this resolution by reference as set forth verbatim herein. 2. The Henderson County Fiscal Court hereby supports the request and application by the Western Kentucky Regional Industrial Development Authority Incorporated for grant funding in the amount of $700,000 from the Kentucky Cabinet for Economic Development through the Kentucky Product Development Initiative for the purpose of developing approximately 1 million square foot engineered dirt pad which will be suitable for heavy industrial use on approximately 102 acre area within the 4-star industrial park. The local match portion of said grant shall be provided by WKRIDA. Furthermore, the Henderson County Fiscal Court agrees to be responsible for administering the funds awarded from the KPDI grant and shall make disbursements thereof in accordance with guidelines of said grant.
Entertain a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Good job, Kurt, on not
Thank you.
saying WKRP. As close as those letters were.
We also have a resolution for the reappointment of County Treasurer Brenda Ryder, who works for us in 4-year increments, and it's time to reappoint her again. She has been outstanding. When I first arrived, she had just started as treasurer, and it was a learning experience for her both in our jobs, and I have full trust in her and highly recommend that we reappoint her. And we need a resolution to that effect, but without any objection, I would ask that we read the resolution and approve it.
A resolution relating to the Henderson County Fiscal Court reappointing county treasurer. Whereas Judge Executive is authorized to reappoint county employees with the approval of fiscal court pursuant to KRS 67.7107. Whereas the Judge Executive is authorized to appoint a county treasurer a term not to exceed in 4 years, whose salary shall be fixed by the fiscal court pursuant to KRS 179.020. Now therefore be it resolved by the fiscal court county of Henderson as follows. Pursuant to KRS 67.710, Section 7, and all applicable laws, Brenda Ryder is reappointed as treasurer for Henderson County effective 01 July 2023 for a term of 4 years.
I move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I know Brenda Ryder appreciates this because she was actually wondering whether we were going to hire her back or not, but I assured her it was merely a formality.
She's
Judge
not allowed
can-
to go anywhere.
Yeah, Judge, can
No getting out of this.
can I take the liberty of just thanking Brenda for tolerating me for almost 13 years now, because knowing nothing, when I come onto the court, Bill Hubiak was trying to get me kind of lined out on things, and Brenda, she's still trying to get me lined out on things. So I do appreciate all the time she spent with me and all the phone calls, and I think she's done a great job too as well, Judge.
And one of the great things about Brenda is she's willing to answer any and all
Agreed.
questions she can.
Fantastic.
Even at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah, it happens all the time. All right, we have a motion and a second. Without any other discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Cheers, Brenda.
Congratulations, Brenda.
Or sorry, either way.
Okay, County Engineer Nick Stallings, if you'd come up, he was taking a look at our natural gas needs and considered a better deal, and I'll let him describe that.
All right, for the last, well, before I was here, we've been using Lynn Gas as our gas supplier. Along with that comes a rental of a cage and tank rentals and refill, that kind of thing. But they were a little bit difficult to work with when it came time to pay for bills. We always paid bills a month after. Once we get the invoice, we pay them the following month. They always hit it with service charges because they didn't like that. They would want to have the things billed on their time frame. They were also starting to increase their price a little bit more to where we found southern states were more welcome to our ways, and also with our prices, they were actually cheaper. You know, so all in all, we're gonna save money by going with Southern States, and it wasn't saying that Lynn Gas didn't have the service, it's just the incidentals that we were charged, you know, kind of outweighed having them, so that's what the agreement was that you all received, and that was just kind of a lease agreement, you know, that we would, you know.
So this amounts to less than $30,000
Oh,
a
yeah,
year in
absolutely.
our, in
Yeah,
our
I mean,
budget,
we're-
so we do not have to bid it out. This is a one-year agreement that's in your packet. Nick is recommending we go with this agreement. I believe Steve has reviewed this.
I've reviewed the agreement. It's approved as a form and legality with the exception of adding the phrase "to the extent allowed by law" at the beginning of numerical paragraph 8A.
And pending that has happened, any other questions about this? Chance to save money and have a vendor that's a little bit more agreeable to our pay schedule. Need a motion to approve this agreement?
So move.
So moved.
Second.
Or second.
You have a motion and a second. Any other questions of Nick?
Good job.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I'll keep Nick up here for a couple other bid recommendation and bid openings. So
Yes, last week we did the F-550 accessories, the dump bed, the plow, the spreader, and the hydraulic system. And we had two bidders that were right there within the same price range, MCO and Edinger and Sons out of Louisville. MCO is you know, local. But the problem MCO had was they had a 12-week you know, delay on start because of materials and trying to get things in. I called, talked with Edinger, and they were able to get things within the week. So you know, with our pothole patchers, what this main machine, this F-550 is going to be used for, obviously the time to knock about is now. So if we wait another 12 weeks before we get the materials in, and then wait another 2 or 3 weeks for it to get installed, now we're looking August time frame, and that's too long to wait. So I recommend we go with Edinger. They got from, you know, what they told me, they would have you know, a week, 2 weeks time, turn around, get the equipment in, go in and start building the truck. So that's my recommendation.
Sounds good to me.
Move to approve.
you have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions of Nick on that? Hopefully we can get this done this fiscal year.
Absolutely.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now we have some bid openings for the Hatchet Mill Bridge replacement and installation.
All right. We got get to open up. This is from Scott Murphy. Okay, they've got, they have, their bid for cost of labor is $211,580. The cost of the materials is $5230, bring a total cost to the county of, and by material, that's the grout for the beams and the reinforcing steel. And they got a total price of $263,880 as a price to construct the Hatchet Mill Bridge that we did the bid openings for a couple weeks ago on the type of structure. I think that's all that's in there.
Murphy, okay. What was that price again, Nick?
$263,880.
Thank you, sir.
All right, our other bid was through, this was through Hazix. Okay, they've got general conditions at $12,017. Bridge removal at $53.25, $5,325. Site preparation is at $35,000, or $34,599. Abutment construction is $223,218. Installation of the beam and guardrail installation is $18,921, and site cleanup was $5,132, bringing the total of $299,214. So Hazel's came in at $299,214, and Scott Murphy came in at $263,880. And those are the only bidders we had. I had meetings with a couple other contractors, but one of them called to say they didn't want to bid, and the other one didn't turn in a bid, I don't guess. So that's what we got for the bridge construction.
You want to take those with you and study and make recommendation next meeting?
I will make recommendations and come back with you all on that next week, or next court, which is 2 weeks from now.
And you wanted to take some time to give the court an update on a couple things?
Yeah, we got, this included, we got a couple bridge projects coming up. We got Hatchet Mill, which I just talked about, and we can't have a bridge without having something in District 3, so we got Burbank Road Bridge. So this is the time frame we're trying to get done on Hatchet Mill. There's the bridge location, currently in between Conaway Road and Farley. We're trying to get it done starting around June 5th time frame, let school get out of session, let all the farmers get their planting done, and we would like to have this thing completed by August 1st because of school traffic. Again, the detour's pretty lengthy, and then we like to have the kids not have the bus driver not have to take the detour. So looking at a cool little slide change there, but then we've got this is what we're trying to do for our detour route. Obviously, we've got the detour route here ongoing, the bridge still there. This is if you're going southbound from Spotsfield down towards 351. Your detour is Farley Road, Cheney Road. Not much of a detour, especially if you're going out east, because you still got the same distance. Farley and 351 are same distance, obviously. So it's just kind of a perturbance, but it's not that bad. Then we've got a detour route for northbound. Essentially, come out the same way you went. There's Conaway Road, as you all are familiar with. That's a road that's been still closed by coal mines. They're working on permit issues to get that road completed. There's not really an easier way to come in and come out, so that's our detour route there for Hatchet Mill. For the people going northbound from 351, you can't get up that way. You can obviously go Cheney Road through Farley if you want to get to Spotsfield from Zion area, or you can take 1078 from Zion up to Spotsfield area. Now we got Burbank Road here. So here on Burbank is our location. Come off of 136. This is where we're replacing that bridge. Currently, it's a barely 16-foot wide bridge. We're putting in a 24-foot wide, not 24-foot, I mean 20-foot wide bridge. There, we're putting in an aluminum box culvert. We're going to construct that with our crews. Coming there to Ho-Ram on Monday, the June 12th. Weather depending here is we're going to come in Ho-Ram, remove the old bridge the 12th, build the pipe bed on the 13th, lay the carcass of the bridge in on the 13th, rebuild, backfill the 14th, and have the road open hopefully by the 14th, which would be Thursday. We'll give a Friday just in case we need to. So this will be the detour route for that one. Obviously, it's a little bit more because everything in District 3 is big, and there's a detour route of anybody wanting to come through and get to 136. There's no other options for Burbank, so you got to come out through Burbank through Ranch Road. This is your option if you want to come in. Obviously, as soon as you pass the first curve, there's a bridge, so it's essentially turn in, turn out. we're going to have this well publicized with everybody. We'll go out and send out flyers to the people who are there on the main route where their houses are, kind of know what's upcoming, so they're not hit by.
There aren't many.
Yeah, there's not, but these two bridges need to be done. We're trying to do it around farming season and around school sessions, so they're not out too much. We're looking, possibly 6, 7, 8 weeks for a Hatchet Mill, and we're looking at about 4 days, 5 days for Burbank.
That detour goes on gravel, right?
Absolutely. Yes, and we're also trying to, we wanted to get around flooding season.
Right.
Because that end of Burbank and Ranch Road area, they flood, so they'll be stuck. But we're hoping, 4 days that we'll be able to get that bridge in, get it out, and put it back in place and open it back up, so. That's it.
Any other questions on that? Godspeed as far as I can consider. Nick, you want to come back up? You have somebody you need to hire?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, forgot about that. Okay, we've got, in the last couple of weeks, we've had 2 retirees, or 2 retires, or I guess I say that word. They retired. And then had another one that leave and went to Pratt, is upcoming place here. They're grabbing a lot of people. So in their absence, we had to kind of jostle people around and get the grader operators and equipment operators. So that made us room for 3 truck drivers. We put the advertisements out. We had a couple interviews, and one was selected, and he's able to start, next Monday if you all approve. His name's Mike Glasgow, and their starting pay is $18.50. They've got a 6-month probation, and then it'll move up to 19. And then, but he's worked with the state for years, and he's been around trucks. He's got all the background information we're looking for. Experience. It's well. There wasn't a lot of people that applied, and he seemed to have good rapport about how he worked and his abilities.
So we're looking for a motion to approve that individual at that position at that rate of pay.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Nick.
Right.
Good luck. Mr. Gold, your report.
Judge, I've got only one check today, and that is a state reimbursement for a county budget employee, and that is $7,796.42, bringing the fiscal year 2023 total to $194,482.52.
Motion to
Judge, I
accept the
move
county
we
report.
accept.
Second.
A motion and a second. Assuming no objection to accepting money from the county attorney's office, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Newly reappointed Treasurer Ryder, please join us. And we have a couple bits of business to attend to, including a budget amendment first reading.
This is the first reading of Budget Amendment Number 8 of the current fiscal year. This is amending into the current fiscal year budget and additional receipts of $700,000 from the general fund prior year carryover, with the corresponding expenditure of being insurance premium claims, payments, and wire transfers. The need for this budget amendment is the appropriation line has exceeded the budgeted amount and is to keep this appropriation line in compliance through the end of the fiscal year. Again, the total amount of this budget amendment is $700,000.
And to amplify on that, we developed a rainy day fund within the health insurance program. As you know, we're having a very challenging year, and this is reaching into that rainy day fund to help cover costs.
Judge, I move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And now you have some transfers.
Transfers are as presented, and this is redistributing appropriations within the existing budget. Most of these are to carry the appropriation lines through the end of the fiscal year.
I'll point out specifically the 911 transfer. Over the last several years, we have worked with the city, obviously, on the organizations we both fund, and 911 being one of them. And over those years, we've noticed that Robert Gunter, who handles all the fiscal matters for the city, is very, very conservative. They have slightly different requirements on them as they budget than we do. And last year, they asked us for a large number to budget for 911, and based on the previous 2 years of spending, actual spending, and also the fact that we had voted with the city to move the 911 fees that were assessed on land phone lines to water bills to more accurately and fairly fund 911, that was beginning to work well. The revenues from that move were increasing. I honestly thought Robert Gunter's number was just way too conservative, too high, and so I plugged in a lesser number based on the previous couple years, and we were wrong. They've had a lot of challenges at 911, including hiring and things like that. So the expenses this year end up being a lot closer to what Robert Gunter had initially recommended. And if you notice in our recent budget session, I did not question Robert again. I plugged in the exact number that he gave me just to make sure this sort of situation doesn't occur one more time. So for this year, we bet low and it came out high. We're not going to do that again. But that's one of the reasons why we have a contingent appropriations line item. We stick some money aside to handle things like this. But that is why that is the reason why this 911 estimate came out so incorrect. Blame it on me. But as you know, as we go through that budgeting process, we're always looking for places to nip and tuck. And I will say that both Mr. Gunter is very good at his job. They are much more conservative, even than we are on expenses sometimes. So I think sometimes you have to read the tea leaves with Robert a bit. But he was serious about this one. He really was. So that's the explanation for that. Anybody have any questions? So that's on me too. I'll take the mea culpa on that, but we have the money to cover it. So without any other further discussion or questions, take a motion to approve the transfers.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
I do have some claims. From the general fund to the Henderson City County Airport Board, $8,721.43. This is for matching funds of the airport runway project and is a flow-through of co-severance funds from the state and is to come from the Air Board Maintenance Appropriation line. This type of thing is generally not included in the annual budget, but it is run through there when it's requested and paid. That's what that is. To the road fund, $579.36. This is for EMA March fuel and is to come from EMA supplies appropriation line. From the jail fund to Advanced Document Solutions, $1,908.26. This is copier charges for 2 months and is to come from the Communication Equipment Appropriation line. To U.S. Bank, which is the credit card, $2,297.84. The majority of this is to come from the office supplies and cleaning supplies appropriation lines.
To go back to the amount that we are using for an airport grant match, just to explain to Master Tompkins and Master Starks, I guess it was Butch 5-6 years ago that the plan for the expansion of the movement and expansion of the runway at the airport, as well as the redirection of what's the road there? Tillman.
Carden, Geneva.
Yes. they needed a match from the county, a 30% match on the total overall. It worked out to about $390,000, and we chose to hold back some coal severance fund that are kept in an account for us in Frankfurt as that match as needed. So it's been trickling out a little bit. And they tell us when it's time to kick in some of that money for the matches. The project continues, and they're in the middle of it right now. So this $9,000 is the latest little ask towards that match. We're not going to pay it all at once. It's going to come out as needed like this. So if you hear about this again, that's what that's all about.
They've actually got the road open.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Good.
it's really nice,
Good.
really.
Good. And if I'm not mistaken, that part of the deal is we now have to maintain that road. The grant's helping build it. It was a state road.
No, it was it's Trick Turner Road, which was a state road, and it was a county road, and it went to a state road, and then we got it back as a county road, so.
As part of this project.
Yeah, it's been a little bit of everything.
But it's good to know, and it's open. It's open.
Cardin Geneva's open. Trick Turner comes off of Cardin Geneva now, so it's a intersection there.
So again, when some of these matching funds are asked to come out for the airport project, that's what this is. So.
Yeah.
Thank you. So you have claims? Is that all the claims?
That's all.
Any other questions on claims?
Move to pay the claims.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda.
As for old business, you remember we took a vote to declare a fairly lengthy list of detention center equipment as surplus. Thankfully, we were able to actually move one of those mowers that were on that list to the Henderson City Parks Department for their use, which is nice. I like it when we can do that. We do have to, I believe, amend in some fashion our recognize that change.
I think that can be done by a voice vote. The prior resolution said sell it all, but in this situation, I think if we just had a motion that mentioned that specific piece of equipment and that transfer, that would suffice for the minutes.
So I'll entertain a motion to amend that resolution to reflect the fact that a mower with serial number 000007337 has been removed from that list and transferred to the Henderson City Parks Department.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other thoughts about that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And Jailer Todd, thanks for making that connection. Just so people watching can hear, we're going to make sure that paperwork gets completed and reflects the transaction. Okay, with that, good meeting, lots of stuff going on. Anybody out in the audience want to say something for good of the county? Jailer Todd?
Just wanted to, morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Just want to remind everyone this is National Correctional Officer Week. We've fed our officer third shift this morning breakfast.
Excellent.
We've got a vendor that's coming tomorrow to feed us at noon, and I want to extend an invitation to all y'all to come out and eat. Or you can wait. Thursday, we're going to, the Colonels are going to cook, I think fish, probably hamburgers on Thursday for everyone. So you're welcome to come out there and feast.
What's their choice, Bruce? What's tomorrow compared to Thursday? I'm trying to
I don't know what tomorrow is.
Okay, I just wondered.
One of our vendors
I'll be
said
gone
that-
Thursday anyway, so.
Yeah, I don't know what tomorrow is. He just called
That's okay.
last week, said he would, if he could, he'd like to feed everybody on Wednesday.
What
Bruce,
time are you going to start?
Wednesday around 11 so, and then Thursday, it'll be from 11 to 3.
Are you using the training building to feed?
This morning we used just a lobby, but
Lobby.
yeah, if, you know, more people invited, we'll probably use the training center if he's not training in there. So, and I got one other thing, I'd like to use in this year's budget, since we've got rid of some vehicles and we moved some down, I'd like to go out a bid and purchase one for myself. Using this year's budget, there's some in the budget
And it's going to be used for what?
for me and myself.
Any objection with them at least
'Cause we
going out to
moved
bid?
everybody down. We got rid of a 2009 that kept dying as you drove down the road, and then there was one that the oil leaks out as quick as you put it in. So those, and one of those, and those are on that bid sheet, surplus profit sheet. And we're going to get with the high school, we're going to do some work for them, reupholstering their bus. They'll bring a bus out, and our females will reupholster their seats. They get a test from the state pushing it on it and says it's no good. So, and then we're going to trade. Maybe they're going to work on that engine that's leaking oil for us.
Any objection to going out for bid?
None here.
Bruce, what are you looking at?
Just some kind of low
SUV or?
just like a
Pickup?
Explorer or something like that. It's something, you know. I've looked at them, and we don't need. I don't need the sunroof. Don't need the package. Just a simple. I've been going to some jails, and we'll be going to some U.S. Marshals, trying to get some more feds, like in Ohio, Nashville, Illinois. So
Just need a good, dependable vehicle.
Yeah, just, you don't have to trick this one out with all the lights.
Oh,
none
no,
of that
no,
stuff,
I don't
right?
need none of that.
Yeah, so
All
it's
I
just
need
a
to do is
vehicle
give me
with,
some, yeah.
with some lettering
I
and
put
stuff.
several hundred miles on my pickup, and
I got you.
so
And Bruce was telling me, I think you found that you might get a better deal than the state contract by
yes,
going out for bid. Was that why you
I've
wanted to do
looked
that?
at both. There's only 2 auto dealers that's on the state, and both times they kind of raised their price a little bit, and then there's only like $600 off. Where just regular out, I've seen up to $2,500 off the sticker. So that's probably the way to go.
I move we entertain that,
I'll
for the
second.
jailer to go out for bids on a vehicle.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank
you.
Thank you,
Y'all come
gentlemen.
out and eat. We look
Yep.
Good to see you.
I know she's trying to butter us up in that first one, but trying to feed us.
Smart man, that's right, that's right.
Anybody else in our audience like to say something for good of the county? I hope our friend from Kenergy, I know you probably attend fiscal court meetings in other communities and find this one as entertaining and highly organized as we all do. We manage to get the work done, but we might as well have fun while we do it. And it's not always perfect, but it's interesting. Hearing nobody else like to come up for good of the county, we'll start with our magistrates, and I will begin this one with Mr. Gold. Surprise attack.
That's fine. That's fine. Things are going well in the county attorney's office. Been very busy, a lot of things going on. I will say an issue that Magistrate Putman and I have worked on together a whole lot over the years. Noticed some things coming through court on the animal control side, and had some real concerns about those. We've got a training coming up with animal control next week to help them up their game on how they're handling that, and hopefully get some better results out of what we're seeing out of animal control. There were some training deficits, and I think it's just the fact they've had so much turnover, and the state training doesn't really get into a whole lot of the actually how court works and how to get things to court and things like that. So we're going to do that. And just want to say, I want to thank those of you that were able to come out to the fentanyl forum that the Attorney General had last week. It was a good discussion. it is a major issue facing this community, and there's so many different things, so many different vectors at which this problem needs to be approached, that there's no way to tackle it all. But the only failure is to stop trying, right? So I think with the limited amount of opioid settlement funds that are going to be coming out, we're going to have a whole lot of people coming with different ideas and things like that. And I think it's important for, as we learned at that, the state doesn't really have a great plan as to what the best evidence-based solutions might be, and it will be up to each community to kind of craft that. So I think the more that the fiscal court can be involved in crafting that and identifying people that would be experts in helping figure out what will most efficiently move the needle within Henderson County will be very important as we move forward with those limited dollars. But hopefully they could be very impactful in the long run. Other than that, things are going well at the county attorney's office. Appreciate everybody's support, and want to appreciate those of you that were able to come out to the law enforcement memorial last night, particularly the judge, and his words was a good meeting, and also a good reminder of those that put their lives on the line for us every day, and not just the difficulty that they run into during the job, but the stress that they have as a result of that, and frankly the post-traumatic stress that they have, and given the high suicide rate that is involved with that, it's a very tough line of work. And we should all, next time we see somebody that is in law enforcement, make sure we thank them for what they do.
Amen.
And those retired old guys like Keith.
Yeah, good reason to go to Magistrate Barry next.
Thank you, Judge. Thank the court. Thanks, Leslie. A lot of good news there. Thank you for being here. And Kennergy rep too. And Nick, I apologize to you. I know I've worn you out over those crossings in Hebbardsville, but I have a phone and it rings, and when my phone rings, your phone rings. So we're going to get that done. Now, you may not hear from me for 2 months. I don't know. But I know I do appreciate you working on that, because those people out there, they've talked to me about that for the last 4.5 years. So get that done. We're going to get them taken care of, hopefully here in the near future. With that, I think everything's good. Thanks, Jailer, for being here. Thank everybody. District 1 is doing pretty good, I think. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Magistrate Starks.
Thank you, Judge, and just like everyone else, thank you folks for joining us either in person or online, and I do want to give kudos to Steve Gold, who did such a great job representing Henderson County on that panel that looked at the fentanyl issue, and I know that's something that all of us here sitting here take a real interest in, and look forward to working with other community partners to try to address and make real change, like Steve said. So I was really proud, and glad to see the judge was there and asked a very pertinent question, and that's going to be the crux, I think, of how we address this and do it in a way that will meet the state scrutiny at the end of the day of how the money was spent, these settlement dollars. Again, thank you, Leslie and Kennergy and the Connection, for all that you've been working on, and that's a big deal. This is an important meeting today. When we talk about spending the public's money the best possible way, this is the heart of that. And so I feel really good about all that. And I want to give kudos to whoever came up with those interactive graphics on that slideshow, Nick. That was that you, Nick? I'm having trouble figuring out which one was my favorite. So no, they were, that's good. I think that shows. I really appreciate you and what you're doing to keep close watch on our dollars and how they are being spent. We're saving some money on the natural gas. Every little thing helps. And so that's not going unnoticed. We appreciate, and again, having 2 bridges right now in the process of being replaced, that's huge for our motoring public and safety out there. I know we've got more to come, but we're making progress, and so that's all good. I had a chance to go to a training last week in Owensboro that was put on through CAECO on planning and zoning. And I feel good about these appointments that were made earlier today. I just want you to know that we've got some very dedicated folks on that planning commission. You know that. And several of them were at that training in Owensboro, and it was very enlightening. It talked a lot about things post-COVID that communities all around the state, all around the nation are having to look really hard at and trying to update our zoning codes and make sure that we're on top of some of these housing issues that are huge, and also how the world is working now. There's very less need for office space in central business districts than what we used to have, because now a lot of folks are able to work from home. So how do we repurpose, some of that vacant space? And with housing being a big need, I think we're gonna have to look at mixed uses more. And so just know that they were right there, training as well. And so I was very proud of that, and very informative. A lot of talk about technology, and it's up here, and our acceptance, being able to accept it as human beings, we're still down here. So there's a curve there we've got to catch up, and the technology, we all know, just keeps going faster and faster. So with all that said, I feel great about what's happening with our community and our county, and it's a pleasure to serve with you gentlemen. Thank you so much. And congratulations, Brenda. Thank you for all you've done to help us. Yes. Real quick, too, teachers, Teacher Appreciation Week this week, as well as Nurses Appreciation, but also the law enforcement as well, and appreciate my friend to my left and all those serving.
I don't know what I look forward to more. Master Starks leaning into the mic and hearing those dulcet tones trained by decades on the radio. It's always tickles my ear, Bill, I just got to say. Or experiencing the subtle but deadly humor of Nick Stallings. I think that is outstanding. And even if it's just merely in a PowerPoint presentation, it always, I'm telling you, if you pay close attention, Nick's one of the funniest individuals you ever meet in your life. So I appreciate you both, really, every meeting, I really do. See what I mean? It's a little different here, but it's okay. Master Southern.
Just one of the things that y'all touched on was the opioid thing, and this Boys and Girls Club's definitely a step in the right direction, because we've got to get it before it happens. Yes, we got to help the people that's having problems now, but we need to stop the problem before it starts, and the Boys and Girls Club's where we can make a difference. Thank you, Kenergy. Gosh, that is between the potholes and no internet. That's 90% of my calls. But thank y'all. All's good in District 3. I got a grader broke down. We're getting there, right, Nick? So be patient. That's all. All's good in District 3. Thanks.
Thank you. Master Tompkins.
Thank you to everybody, Kenergy and everybody. It's always great to have good partners to help out the greater county areas, because sometimes they're a little left behind, so we thank you for all your hard work there. District 2, we've had a couple of eventful days here. We had a road collapse due to a fire burning up a culvert and all the heavy rains and water, but kudos to Nick and his team, and also the county sheriff's department were out there really quickly. Last night I think we responded in under 45, 50 minutes tops from when I found it to when they were there working. So wow. Thank you for that. And also thank you to Steve and the judge too on working on some things, just to give you guys a heads up on the solar work we're getting ready to start having to consider. Working on some things there that are going to be brought to light here with you guys for consideration. But other than that, everything seems to be going pretty good in District 2. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Master Putman.
Thank you, Judge. Just, again, thank everyone. I thought we had some very enlightening presentations today. Boys and Girls Club, Kenergy, obviously, great news. Just to mention, Magistrate Tompkins and myself attended the CTE awards banquet, which was, I thought, pretty impressive. I mean,
We've got a lot of really good young people.
A lot of students coming out of there already hooked up with the jobs, and it was kind of interesting. They signed off just like they were signing a scholarship to play a sport. So, but it was very entertaining, to say the least. And Judge, you know, Shakespeare always says brevity is the soul of wit. So that means I'm brief, and you can appreciate that. And all is good in the fourth.
Thank you, and I will try to be brief as well. Just so you know where the budget process stands, Brenda is filling out a couple last-minute requirements, crossing Ts, dotting Is. We still need a little information on what state programs are going to be paying the jail. As soon as those are plugged in, we will be hopefully having first reading next meeting. And after that, it goes off to the state for approval. And when they give us the okay, then we have the second reading. It may not get back to us in time to have the second reading in the first fiscal court meeting in June. It may take until the second fiscal court meeting in June, but that's fine. So that's how this works, and it's in process. As Magistrate Tompkins mentioned, we are working on a couple things related to both zoning requirements for solar farms, a tweak that we're going to recommend, and also the follow-up on that conversation we had about construction permit fees for solar farms, wind farms, and battery farms, as well as electrical permit fees. So we're going to be bringing back to you next court some things to consider. Other than that, I really appreciate Kenergy and Conexon coming here today. I do think that's a tremendously exciting development, and to get all of our Kenergy customers, which basically amount to 95% of the rural people in this county, hooked up with truly dependable, affordable, high-speed internet by the end of 2024, to me, is really fun to think about and will be much appreciated. We'll continue to, I know in not just our counties, but others, Conexon will continue to try to work with KU to maybe come up with some sort of plan, because ours is not the only county where they're hearing this comment, and understandably so. So be confident about that if there's an agreement there, it can be worked out. It will be worked out eventually. I don't want to speak for you, but I know that Conexon's very interested in that. So with that, thanks again to all of our detention center employees in this week that's devoted to honoring them, as well as nurses and teachers. It's amazing. I can't keep track of the National Week of, but those are three great constituencies right there. Again, thanks. With that, I will entertain a motion.
Judge, may I, while we're here, to what Magistrate Tompkins brought up and what you're talking about with regard to the solar, I've been in touch with Brian Bishop with the Planning Commission about that, and I don't think we have to have a full-blown resolution for that. I think we can, at this point, if we wanted to today, do a voice vote requesting that, or allowing the judge to send a letter to the Planning Commission requesting that they start the process to modernize and update the zoning with regard to solar. That could maybe kickstart the process a little bit, since we're talking about it today. I hate to extend the meeting any, but it's something we could go ahead and do.
Let me explain what we're talking about. The tweak that we're looking at, and this has come as a complaint and a suggestion from many corners, is that the way the ordinance that we passed regulating solar farms currently reads is that if a solar farm is large enough to qualify for the designation of a industrial size solar farm, and there's language about the size that it needs to be classified as such, that it doesn't necessarily require that the land it sits on be changed from a zoning of agriculture to heavy industrial. Many people out in the community believe that should be true, that it should be specified specifically that if your project is classified as the largest sort of industrial solar farm contemplated in our ordinance, that the zoning also be required to be changed. Keeping it in agriculture gives these farms a bit of a discount that comes with keeping land zoned agriculture that many people feel is probably not appropriate. That because of the land use and because of the nature of these facilities, that should properly be required to change the zoning to heavy industrial. Am I characterizing that correctly?
Yes, sir, that's fair.
I believe that is something that has a lot of legitimacy. So, with your permission on a voice vote, as Mr. Gold suggested, I'd like to ask the Planning Commission staff to review that, potentially come up with new language for that, and it'll eventually come back to us.
There'll be a public hearing and whatnot, and it'll come up with specific language.
I'll move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. I'll say this, solar farms currently sited, already approved. I believe this will not impact them. I think this will only be for future.
Going forward, correct. Yes, sir.
Although a couple of those, I believe, are potentially in the process of expanding their original request.
Yes, sir.
The new expansion will be subject to this if we get it passed in time. So,
And again, thank you both for really the help on all this. Needed a lot of guidance, so thank you both.
I didn't mean to extend the meeting any longer, but I thought since
thank
while
you.
we're
No,
talking about it,
no.
might as well
Might as
go
well
ahead and
move
start
on.
that
Yeah.
process.
So with that, we have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. With that, all in favor, again, can leave now. There you go.
We
What?
gotta have a motion. I make a
You gonna
motion.
make a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor can leave.